You've definitely heard that phrase, right? Who are you to judge me? It's such a powerful social shield, isn't it? It's kind of the go-to defense when someone feels called out. The whole idea is that judging is just wrong. Full stop. But is that really the whole story? Well, our source materials suggest there's a much deeper conversation to be had. So, let's get into it.
And this is where it gets a little ironic. Because, for a society that seems to hate the very idea of being judged, we seem to be doing it constantly. It's actually a fundamental part of how we operate, from the office to our living rooms, whether we like to admit it or not. I mean, just look at this list. Reality TV shows, employee performance reviews, beauty pageants, and, of course, courtroom verdicts. Our world is literally built on systems of judgment. It's a totally normal, even expected part of life. So if that's true, where does this powerful, almost allergic reaction to being judged even come from?
Well, to really understand that, we've got to go back to the source. And a lot of this thinking can be traced back to one single, incredibly famous Bible verse that has pretty much become a universal shield in our culture. And there they are, the words themselves. They are powerful, and on the surface, they seem crystal clear, right? But the author of our source material makes a really bold claim that these words are almost always taken completely out of their original context. So, to figure out what was really being said here, we need to do a little unpacking. Let's dive into the author's analysis of the actual language and the historical setting of this incredibly famous passage. Okay, so the original Greek word for judge used here is krino. And as you can see, it means a lot more than just condemnation. It's about separating, distinguishing, basically forming a careful opinion after you've looked at all the facts. It's a process of careful thought, not just a quick slam of the gavel. And this is the absolute crucial point from our source. The argument is that Jesus wasn't saying, hey, never ever make a judgment about anything. No, he was speaking directly to the religious leaders of his day, the Pharisees, and calling out their very specific kind of self-righteous, I'm better than you, hypocritical judgment. And this slide just perfectly lays out the process Jesus actually describes. It's not a simple don't. It's a sequence. Step 1, deal with your own big stuff first. That's the log in your own eye. Step 2, then you'll be able to see clearly. And only then, step 3, can you actually be helpful with someone else's smaller issue, the speck in their eye. Okay, now hold on, because this is where the argument gets really interesting. Just when you think you've got the rule down, don't judge, the author points to another part of the Bible where judgment isn't just allowed, it seems to be commanded. So here we have the Apostle Paul writing to the church in Corinth. And he does not mince words. He says point blank, I have already pronounced judgment on someone for their behavior. And guess what? He uses that same Greek word, krinoi. And according to our source, context is everything here. Paul was upset because the church leaders were just turning a blind eye to a major public problem in their midst. So his judgment wasn't about being self-righteous. It was a necessary correction, almost like spiritual surgery, meant to protect the health of the whole community. All right, let's circle back to that same chapter in Matthew that we started with, because the author points out that just a few verses later, Jesus gives another instruction that seems to require us to make some kind of judgment. Jesus tells his followers to be on the lookout for false teachers. Okay, but how are they supposed to do that? Well, he says you'll know them by their fruits, which basically means their actions, their teachings, and the overall result of their lives. And here's the logical conclusion our source draws from that. You literally cannot recognize bad fruit without first making a judgment. By definition, you have to look at what's happening and compare it to a standard of what's good. This isn't hypocrisy. The author argues it's an essential act of discernment. So all of this might feel a little bit abstract, a bit theological, but the author brings it right down to earth. How does this whole principle actually apply to our friendships and our relationships, like right now? Our source uses this quote as a perfect case study. Here you have someone who is clearly bothered by their friend's behavior, but they choose to stay silent. Why? Because they think that's the non-judgmental thing to do, and therefore the most loving thing to do. And that really brings us to the core of the dilemma, doesn't it? If you genuinely care about someone and you see them doing something that you believe is harmful, or from the source's viewpoint, offensive to God, is staying silent really the most loving option you have? The author's position on this is really clear. Real friendship demands honesty, even when it's super uncomfortable. From this perspective, just ignoring what they call the whole issue of sin isn't actually a loving act because it does nothing to help the person you care about.
Okay, so let's pull all these different threads together and land on the author's final conclusion about what it really means to judge.
And this comparison lays out the distinction perfectly. On one side, you've got hypocritical judgment. It's self-righteous, it obsesses over other people's tiny flaws while ignoring your own, and it's condemned. But on the other side, you have righteous discernment. This starts with checking yourself, it aims to lovingly restore, and it's presented as something that's actually required for a healthy community.
So the huge takeaway from this whole analysis isn't stop judging. It's stop judging hypocritically. The real command, as the source interprets it, is to get your own house in order first. Only then are you in a position to help others with genuine clarity and love.
And that leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking question. Have we been looking at the word judgment all wrong? Maybe, just maybe, when it's done right, humbly, and with love, it's not an act of condemnation at all, but an essential tool for helping us all find clarity.